We have Belén and Mahran Meißner who will come on stage from Siemens, or Siemens, as we say, right? Siemens or Siemens?
Siemens.
Don't ask me, ask him, he's the German one.
What do you say? Siemens?
Siemens, ja.
Siemens, ja. Ja, ich habe Deutsch gelernt, aber ich habe alles vergessen. Just mean I learned German, but I forgot everything. So yeah, and they will talk about like from API catalogs to API marketplaces into the metaverse. So yeah, we think it's a good continuation of what you've seen earlier. We talk about value, we talk about like APIs for increasing interactions, but now we'll continue to talk about like ecosystem creation, right? From inside the company like catalogs or outside the company like marketplaces. So the slides are again on the computer, so try to make it work.
How do we move from slide to slide? On the green arrow? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That works directly. Thank you very much. So let's start, right? Please, some cheers, some warm applause for them to, yeah.
So hello, my name is Belén Roca. I'm head of API at Siemens. And today I will be speaking about how Siemens wants to move from API catalogs to building an API marketplace.
Yeah, and my name is Mahran Meißner. I'm from Siemens as well. I am holding an executive MBA and being a senior IT key expert. And the stage is yours, Belén.
Thank you. So we wanted to start by giving you a little bit of background on Siemens as a company. So Siemens is a technology company that has 5 main areas of operation: industry, infrastructure, mobility, healthcare, and financial services. It has over 300,000 employees across the world, and it invoices over 60 billion a year. We deliver technology with a purpose that brings value not only to our customers, but to society as a whole. And we have a very diverse portfolio of products. We have high-speed trains, electric grids, smart buildings, software to run factories, among others. Before I talk about the API marketplace, I wanted to talk a little bit about the API strategy in Siemens, because the API marketplace is a key contributor to our API strategy. Our API strategy is based on 4 pillars. This is not something that we invented. It's something that we adopted from the literature and adapted to the needs of Siemens. So the first pillar, which is probably one of the most important ones, is we need to define and understand what is the role of APIs in the overall digital transformation of Siemens and Siemens customers. We all know that APIs can be enablers of new business models. They can bring new sources of revenue. They can accelerate innovation and shorten time to market. But unless you are very strategic in the way you leverage your APIs, you can end up with thousands of APIs that amount to nothing, right? That have very little reusability, no business value, and they're even almost point-to-point integration. The second pillar is we want to change the mindset in the company around APIs. We want to create the right team structures, and we want to provide the right training. For us, it's important that this training is not just technical training, but we also want to provide training for the product owners and for the business folks. So it's important that we do a center for enablement that is not just technically focused, but also that does acculturation workshop for the business folks. The third pillar is APIs are technical assets, therefore they need the right tools and the right platforms. And the fourth pillar, which is where the API marketplace comes into play, it's we need to build a community of both consumers and producers of APIs. And the API marketplace is the virtual space where they all come together. So the vision that we have for the API marketplace in Siemens is a central hub where both internal and external producers and consumers of APIs come together. It's a space where they can either sell APIs, they can consume APIs, but it's also a space for identifying new business opportunities, whether it's because we build new partnerships or because we create new products by extending existing API products. Our target audience, of course, is developers. That is a given, right? Developers are key contributors to the API scene. But it's also very important for us that as part of building this API marketplace, we bring the business folks and the product owners into the marketplace. And the reason for this is if you go back to our strategy as seeing APIs as enablers of the business, is the business folks that understand the business. It's them that they understand how they can leverage APIs to drive new business opportunities. So one of the questions that we get quite often when we talk about building an API marketplace is, why do we need a marketplace, an API marketplace? We already have API catalogs. And for us, it's very important to distinguish between an API catalog and an API marketplace. An API catalog is mainly targeted towards developers, and what we want to do is add additional capabilities to the API catalog to bring also the business folks and the product owners into the picture. So moving away from a purely API catalog to building an API marketplace, it means at a high level to include workflows to approve those APIs. It means to have methods to gather feedback and ratings, ability to add marketing materials to sell the API products. It means the ability to include third-party APIs, to monetize those APIs. And also, very important for Siemens, we want to have an API marketplace that integrates with several gateways. Siemens is a very large company where we have several API gateways. We do not want to force the business to change their ways of work. We want to create a marketplace that is integrated with the different API gateways. When we're looking at the different solutions to build this API marketplace, and we look at the capabilities, we can classify them in three main areas. One is e-commerce, the other one is content, and the other one is security and governance. So for e-commerce, we need to be able to sell APIs. We need to be able to monetize them, which means we need to understand consumption patterns. We need to be able to provide checkout capabilities and payment processing capabilities. We also need to have an API product and API versioning. When it comes to content, this is a very important part also of the marketplace. We need to provide the ability to create the marketing content to support these API products. We need to also provide a space for the community to engage. When it comes to the capabilities of the security and governance, we need to be able to validate who are the users coming into our API marketplace. We need to provide a way to onboard, securely onboard new APIs. We need to understand the traffic. And again, we need to integrate with different API gateways within Siemens. So if I go back to that first slide of the API strategy and understanding how APIs can be enablers of the overall digital transformation of Siemens and its customers, one of the best examples is the Accelerator marketplace. The Accelerator marketplace was launched in June of this year, and it is a portfolio of IoT-enabled hardware, software, and services. It is an ecosystem and a growing marketplace. The Accelerator has a commitment to openness and co-creation of value with external parties and partners. And in order to ensure this openness and this co-creation of value, we need to have an external API marketplace. Among other things, because a lot of our digital offerings either come with APIs or are APIs themselves. Another commitment of the Accelerator is transforming our entire portfolio to be modular, to be cloud connected, and to be built on standard APIs. Building these standard APIs will set the foundation for another major initiative in Siemens, which is the industrial metaverse, and Mahran will be speaking about that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And yeah, since Belén already mentioned, we launched the Accelerator Marketplace on June 29 this year. And the Accelerator Marketplace is kind of the place where we bring all of our software together so that customers of Siemens can kind of dive into our products and at some point also get APIs about the products. And at the same day, we also announced the partnership between NVIDIA and Siemens to create the industrial metaverse. And there was also this quote from our CEO that all of that needs standardized APIs. And I would say this is then kind of the foundation we need with all the tools and the applications to create kind of this metaverse. I would say to bring this a little bit into contrast and that you also better understand what do we mean with the industrial metaverse, there's something that is currently shared in the space because everyone is kind of, okay, what is the metaverse? And it can be shaped into these three categories. So one thing is a consumer metaverse. So this is everything you maybe know. If you have children, they jump into Fortnite and then they play the games all the time. They meet with their peers and everything, and they exchange. And then you can say, okay, Fortnite, this is kind of a metaverse. You can also think about like a corporation like Siemens. If I would tell you there is a project between SIDI and SMO, you will not get what Mahran is talking about because you're not used to the language of Siemens. But then you can think again like Siemens is also kind of a metaverse you want to dive in. On the other side, we also see the collaborative metaverse. This is everything like you have your VR headset on, you go into a certain virtual space, and then you have something like, for example, Glue, or there's Microsoft working on Mesh so that you are no longer sitting in front of your screen and staring at it. So you're more kind of immersed into the experience. Think about it like maybe last week you had, I don't know how many Teams calls. If I would ask you like on Wednesday, 12 noon, you had a call. Where did you meet? You would most probably answer, I met in Teams, or I had this Zoom call, or I don't know. But if I ask you like next week, hey, you have been at the API Days in New York, where have you been? You will tell, hey, I was in this conference center here in Convene. So you link it to something like a space which is currently not happening with all those Teams calls, but would happen if you kind of dive into this collaborative metaverse. And the other thing, and that's, I would say, the thing I will elaborate a little bit more about, is the industrial metaverse. So it's kind of this get together of all the softwares, the tools, the APIs, and so forth, to make it able to simulate complex operations, but also come together. So think about like designers, they would meet in this industrial metaverse, and then they maybe have a car in front of them, and they discuss like how this car should be designed, how robots do certain stuff, and so forth. And that's, I would say, also the value we see here, and that's also why this partnership was announced, because NVIDIA is really into the space of the virtual world. I don't know if you heard about this Omniverse solution which NVIDIA is providing, but on the other side, we from Siemens, we have the link to the real world, right? If you think about what Belén said in the beginning, the high-speed train, the wind turbine, the healthcare technical stuff, and so forth. These are all real products, and most probably you have maybe seen them already in the real world, but we want to link this together, like the virtual and the real world. And this is kind of a glimpse, this is also from NVIDIA, how you can see those things. Because on one side you have on the lower left the physical world, and in the middle you have this kind of, for example, factory digital twin we are looking into right now from an industrial perspective, right? And then now it starts to become interesting, because maybe now you think like, hey, he's always talking about this metaverse, but what does it have to do with APIs? So you have to think about it like you need to have the APIs to the machines. You need to have the APIs to certain factories, to simulation software, maybe robots, maybe 3D models for certain things, and you maybe call those 3D models to a certain API. And at the end, also the devices, like you want to see those things maybe in a virtual reality glass, or you want to see them in an AR space, and so forth. And what is also interesting is on the right side, so this link out into the factory designer or the robot gym or something like that. This is called USD, so it's a universal scene description which was invented by Pixar. And this is kind of the first step into that direction, so that you can be also able to not only describe things in a 3D world, like you have to be a designer, but it also gives the possibility to have text files which kind of define how those things are described in this virtual space, so to say. And this is something we are also working on at the moment. It's going into the direction of this consumer metaverse. So that's why I told you like industrial metaverse and collaborative metaverse and consumer metaverse. Because we also believe that, for example, for someone who wants to learn more about Siemens, like for example, you're a new hire or you work for a long time at Siemens, you want to see what Siemens is really doing. And we have a workspace experience app at Siemens, so you can use it, you can book a desk, a seat, or whatsoever. And this app is also kind of transitioned into an application which can be used also from an external. So for example, if you're a visitor to Siemens, then you can see the locations, you maybe can see the map of the location and all of that. And I would say for Siemens that's very interesting because we have over 600 locations. And you can also dive then into those applications and, for example, explore in virtual tours how certain locations look like. But you can then also think about jumping into a virtual call or something like that. And if we build those applications, we also see the need for certain other APIs, like a location API, where you want to get all the locations from. Or you think about a directory API because you want to get the data from the employees. There is a very fun thing that one of the most looked things is like the menu of the restaurants nearby. So that will lead into, for example, a food API or a search API, or at least also all the 3D models we will create of the locations, you can call them through an API as well. And with that, I would also like to wrap up because we started from, I would say, the API strategy. We are currently ramping up, and I would say we are also kind of delivering. We talked about API catalogs. I think that's nothing new. Creating something like an API marketplace, this is a challenge, especially for such a complex corporation like Siemens. But then I would say that's the very interesting part. On one side, out of the API marketplace, there will be APIs, integrations coming, which will help us building this industrial metaverse. But on the other side, out of the industrial metaverse, we will get even more APIs, which can then be feedback into the API marketplace. And with that, I would like to close the presentation. Thank you very much. And yeah, we changed our avatars because now we are fully into this metaverse thing. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So we are here to stay also tomorrow. And thanks a lot.
We have time for 2 questions. Here, I see the first one here. You can prepare your other question.
Hello, how do you think this metaverse technology combined with APIs can be used for the healthcare segment when privacy and healthcare information is important? Do you have any use cases? Are you guys working on it? Or if any thoughts you may have?
So you think in the healthcare industry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say for the healthcare industry, we have our own arm. It's like Siemens Healthineers, right? And I would say they always looked into this area, like, for example, enhancing the data you get out of a body, and then you want to dive into that and so forth. But on the other side, I would say it's also the turnaround here, right? So because the results and the things you see out of this data, you want to make, for example, available also for others. And these are also use cases, I would say, we would see in this area as well, right? So you are kind of enhancing with the technologies the information you get from a certain person, but on return, you can also use that data to feed it back to others. So that, I would say, would be at least one use case here. Yeah.
Do we have another question? Yeah.
Just a real basic question. Is it public knowledge, the launch of the API marketplaces? And what's a little bit more about the roadmap?
Yeah, so the Accelerator marketplace, that was publicly announced, so you can follow that. I would say there's also a lot of communication done by Siemens from that. And there are, I would say, several phases coming, so you can follow up, and then you will also see how these things evolve. And with the first launch, we already made the first APIs available, and there are more to come.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for this talk and this presentation. Yeah, you can applause them, yes. Thank you.
Sure.